Three. Welcome back to another episode of What's Up with WarDtv and What's Up with Ward the podcast. This platform brings together leaders, change makers, and community voices for authentic conversations that educate, inspire, and challenge the way we think. Here on What's Up with WarDtv, we don't shy away from difficult conversations. We explore the topics that impact our communities, our businesses, our careers, and our personal growth. Whether we're talking about leadership, entrepreneurship, education, culture, or social issues, from love, life to relationship is more, our goal is always the same, to create meaningful dialogues that leaves our listeners better informed than when they arrive. Today's conversation is especially timely, discussing DEI, also known as diversity, education, and inclusion. But beyond the headlines and beyond the politics and beyond the buzzwords, today we're asking what DEI really means, why it matters, what challenges organizations are facing today, and how leaders can create workspaces and community that everybody can concede in and succeed in. So I couldn't ask for two better people to join me in this conversation. So I'll go up first with my co-host today. She's Miss Esther Lewis. She's the founder and CEO of Holistic Evolution, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving health equity while supporting the positive evolution of young men of color, specifically between the ages of 16 and 24, through prevention, mentoring, education, leadership development, and community engagement. She founded Holistic Evolution in 2019 after spending more than 20 years working with youth development, education policy, and health equity. Throughout her career, she's become a trusted advocate for creating opportunities that help young people build confidence, leadership skills, and brighter futures. Esther, your work continues to make a tremendous impact on our community, and I'm excited to hear your voice as part of our discussion today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Ward. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. And our guest speaker joining us today is someone whose experience is beyond remarkable and impactful. Britt S. Griffin is an HR executive with more than 30 years experience in leading people strategy, organization development, and cultural transformations across complex mission-driven organizations. As a former chief human resource officer, he has served as a trusted advisor to CEOs, executive teams, and boards, guiding organizations through growth and change. He also founded Lexicon, People and Culture Adversary. Is that right?
Advisory.
Yes, yes. And HR leadership strategic. I can't talk right now. But what I appreciate most about Brett's work is his belief that great organizations aren't built simply through policy. They're built through people, relationships, trust, and of course, leadership. Mr. Griffin, thank you for joining us today, and we appreciate you taking time to share your experience and wisdom with our audience, and welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you for letting me be on the show and be a guest.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right into this. Brett, for those who may not know your story, take us back to the beginning. What inspired your journey into HR, and what has kept you passionate about leadership for more than 30 years?
That's a great question. HR chose me. I didn't choose it. I'd applied for a role early in my career at a retail store. A friend of mine said, "Hey, they're paying more money at this retail store." Went and interviewed for the role. The HR manager asked me if I had any interest in human resources, and I said, "Not really quite sure. How much does it pay?"
There you go.
And she laughed. And then I was serious, but then she went on to tell me about this great position as an HR assistant, helping people, filling out applications, helping candidates fill out applications, and being the front desk face of HR as you walk into the department store. And I just said to myself, wow, this sounds like something new and different. And it was my first professional position.
Mm.
So I took the role and have enjoyed it ever since, and really enjoy working in HR because I've now see the benefits around people and culture and how it impacts business.
Absolutely. So when you look back over those 3 decades, I think we've seen changes in spaces from traveling with paper maps, having beepers or pagers on us, renting VHS
That's right.
tapes and payphones and more. What do you feel has changed most about the workplace culture, considering you had this background in HR for 30 years? What have you seen?
It's the shift. I mean, that's a great question. Early in my career, it was all about the company. You went to work, You did the work that they were asked you to do. There were no engagement surveys. There was no social media.
Right.
And you didn't really ask a lot of questions. You came there, did your job, and went home. And then there was a shift where organizations started to look at people and what they wanted. What I mean by that is engagement surveys showed up because employees were saying, we want a better work environment. We want to be treated differently. We want to be included. We want to feel like we belong. And things shifted. So the power shifted to the employees. So employers had to create this work environment. I remember the day when I used to go to work every day with a shirt and tie and a suit and a jacket. And then that changed because the environment needed to change in order to attract talent. So I would say that is the biggest thing that I've noticed. It is more employee centric now as we live today. Work from home. Earlier in my career, there was no working from home. You were in the office every day. So I think that's been the biggest shift is now employees are asking for more and employers are trying to grant them those things so that they can attract the talent and also retain that talent and keep that talent engaged.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting perspective, Britt. Got a question for you.
Mhm.
Um, does unions play a big part in like that shift of like employees coming together? And the reason why I asked is because it feels like there's another shift happening as it relates to employment, where I think maybe unions were a part of that. Hey, like employees are coming together and we need to have, paid leave off and this list of demands. But it feels like now people are wanting to do things that speaks to them, like more entrepreneurial endeavors and really not even wanting to buy into like a union or try to buy into fitting into corporate culture and different things like that. And I'm wondering, are you seeing that same shift? Do you feel like there's another shift coming um, to like corporate America or even just employment in general?
I do. I do. My dad worked at a steel mill, Inland Steel, for 42 years. Same job, 42 years. Um, right out of the service. And the unions at that time were really strong. And then they remained strong. But as unions started to make a shift, employees saw that it wasn't a benefit to be in a union. So what's happened is unions are still around, mostly manufacturing. They
Mhm.
changed some of their demands. It used to be just about benefits and pay. Now they want a better work environment. They want better health care in terms of how they're treated in those sort of initiatives, EAP and mental health and so on and so forth. So that has been a shift. The other shift that I've seen that's happened, to your point, is people have more options now. When I left corporate America on January 29th of 2026, I rolled right in creating my own company, Lexicon People and Culture Advisory. Didn't need an office building, didn't need a place. I just needed to set things up, get my LinkedIn account going, and start working. So the shift has happened because many employees have seen through the 80s and the 90s. My dad was laid off several times. They decided that they wanted to take things in their own hand and that in their own hands, and they started to create entrepreneurial opportunities. I'll tell you a quick story. 2 years ago, my daughter was graduating from high school. We were visiting all these colleges. So we went to Purdue. We get there and they said, okay, the students here are going to be giving tours. But before the tours start, these 10 students are going to introduce themselves and tell you all about what they're majoring in, so on and so forth. Every single student was minoring in something entrepreneurial. Every
Mm.
one of them wanted to have their own business doing something else. So people have more choices. People want to take more control. People feel now that the work environment that corporate America is giving to them, they now have more choices. You can either have your own business or corporate America and still be fulfilled. So I think that's a shift. Now, the last piece you said, the next shift is coming. I believe the entrepreneurs are going to continue to increase because now you have social media, you have AI, and with AI, you can
Mm-hmm.
do so many things and it doesn't
Yeah.
cost you as much as it used to. So now people will have more control of their income, their work environment, and also entrepreneurship gives you that. So I think that will increase.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So you,
I'm in that space, right? I'm in that space. I've been doing holistic evolution as a full-time job for, 7 years or so. And I felt very fulfilled in my role and just
Yeah.
the impact that I've been able to make. And over the past year and a half or so, changes in the political climate and things, funding that might be available for the work that we're doing is dried up and no longer there, or it's changing to look a different way. And so it has required that, oh, okay, I have to go back to corporate America or go back to like a regular 9 to 5. But it's like you can't get comfortable there because you feel a sense of uncertainty when someone else has like your future in their hand, so to speak. So it's just like, okay, we got to keep doing this and then we got to do this is like, and I feel like I know so many people that have that exact same story. They have something that is their passion that they feel God purposed them to do on this earth, but they got to pay the bills, and so they, go and get a 9 to 5. So yeah, that's interesting to hear your perspective.
yeah. That I want to pivot over to that, Esther. What inspired you to start holistic evolution?
I don't want to go down this long, drawn out thing, right? But I always had like a regular job, but my passion, maybe some people know, but I have a 25-year-old son. And the things that impacted him were very prevalent in my life and just big in my mind as I was going through college and things like that, even after college. And so I always did youth development work as like a
Mhm.
second job or to volunteer or whatever. It was always, something that I did. And having that experience working with multiple, youth development organizations that's focused on housing, criminal justice, and substance misuse, all of these different things, I saw a, a continuous need for a different type of organization or a different type of contribution, specifically to young men, and what they get from these organizations. And so I kind of formed Holistic Evolution to come alongside other organizations that are serving young men of color and train them on how to properly engage them. I don't want to say properly engage them because they engage them. But the part that I felt like was missing was data informed decision making, making sure that we're implementing evidence based interventions, that we're tracking our outcomes. And that was something that small organizations or even some large organizations that they just didn't do well. And even aside from that, we have nobody that is just like looking at how decisions, policy, even when it comes down to how a program is implemented, how it's impacting males of color. Like we see males of color, I kind of was talking to you about this word,
Mhm.
Black boys between the age of 0 and 19 account for 1.9% of the population in the whole state of Indiana. But in January of 2025, Black boys accounted for 28% of those incarcerated in the juvenile justice system. So you see disparities like that. And if there is no one looking to say, hey, like this isn't making sense. Like, hey, we got to do something so that this is not the outcome that we're seeing for Black boys. Um, so like if nobody is looking, then it's not addressed. And so I wanted holistic evolution to look, and I wanted us to be a part of addressing those challenges that Black boys experience. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
that was a
Everything you
mouthful,
just
but
That's wonderful work. That's a great story.
oh,
it is,
praise
yeah.
God, praise God.
Yeah. Everything you're describing connects directly to today's conversation because many of the challenges that young people face eventually show up in our workplaces. So I want to go ahead and get into the weeds of it then. Brett, when I hear the phrase DEI almost daily, but most people often define it differently. What does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean from your perspective?
I want to add a B to that, too, that B being belonging ward, because in the modern day of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, the B is important. I'm old enough to remember when it was just called diversity, wasn't that long ago, and then inclusion
Mm,
came along. Diversity, let me just make this up. Diversity is about representation.
mm,
It's about who's in the room. Do we have diverse representation in the room? Inclusion is about, do those voices in the room matter? Do those people in the room have a voice? Are they able to voice the things in which they have in their mind? Are we treating them in a way that they feel included? There's something different about being in the room. It's another thing about being included in the room. And then
mm,
B, the B is about belonging. If you study Maslow's hierarchy, you'll see belonging is one of those hierarchy needs. Belonging is about making the connection and commitment. When you're when you feel this way, and this is my own personal definition of belonging, people want to be seen, heard, understood, respected, and valued. When you feel and experience those things, then you feel like you belong. Someone can invite you to a meeting, but may not ask you any questions or may not listen to anything you've got to say. When
Mm,
people ask questions and they say, that's interesting, say more about that, Esther. Okay,
mm,
could you explain it a little bit more? Now
mhm,
they've seen you, they've heard you, they're trying to understand you, and now they're gaining respect for what you're saying and they value what you say. That's what belonging is. So, what's happened in corporate America around that topic is organizations have seen if we can create this environment that's diverse, people feel like they're included and they belong, then it will increase retention.
mm.
People will want to stay. People want to give their effort, do all the things that they do. Here's a quick story that I never thought that I would ever understand it, but I understand it now. My very first job in a retail store was doing warehouse work, taking stuff off the truck, putting them in the storerooms and whatnot. There was this guy I worked with. We'd been there like 5 years before me. And we would have these stand-up meetings they called on the warehouse. And the leader or director, manager would be talking about different things, and he'd be standing next to me and he would be saying things before this manager would say it. I would say, man, why don't you raise your hand and let him know what you're thinking? You got some really great ideas. And he
Mhm.
said, I've tried that before. No one paid attention. No one listened to me. So I just come in and do my 8 and skate. Said, what does it mean? So I'm giving them 8 hours and I'm skating up out of here. I'm giving them no more than that. And what he was saying to me was, I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I'm included. So I'm not going to give them anything more than that. So therefore, I don't feel like I need to, but pick up this paycheck every 2 weeks. Well, employers have
mm,
now figured out that if you can create an environment where people feel like they're included, they belong, they will contribute. And this guy I worked with was so funny when I think back about it. At 5 o'clock, at 2 seconds after 5 o'clock, he was already in the parking lot. And our manager would say, what's that overtime? I always had my hand up. Carl was driving away. I
Man.
said, just he said, I'm not giving him any more time. clocking out at 5 o'clock. That's all they're getting from it. And eventually
Mm,
he left and he had a lot of experience. So this is what's happened. Organizations, even though the climate's changed politically, the need for businesses to still have people that are diverse. First, people come up with great ideas, feel included, and they feel like they belong. That has not changed. What's changed is, we'll probably get into a little bit here, is what can you or cannot do? What can you say and not say? But
Mhm.
day to day, the employee still wants to feel included and they want to feel like they belong.
mm.
Yeah, I think that does create the need to have this important conversation. But like you said, let me make sure I read that 8 and skate, right?
Eight, let's skate. With my 8 hours and skating up out of here. That's what we talk
Mm.
Okay, I'm gonna use that. I might have to put that on a t-shirt. But
about. Yes.
when people have those conversations, they do recognize that because I think the younger generation, I think they, especially after COVID, I'm finding that they will, like you said, at 5 o'clock, they're out anyway, and they're gonna do some other stuff. They're gonna take vacations, they're
That's
gonna
right.
spend their money, they're not afraid to get out there. And they don't really mind if you don't want to hear what they gotta say. They're like, okay, I'll go somewhere else real quick.
Yeah,
I,
exactly.
yeah, I don't see young
Exactly.
people putting in that, hey, I retired from there after 30. I don't think that happens with them because they're like, hey, you know what? They wouldn't let me take a extra break. So I went on sabbatical and I'm back at work now. Or they're not afraid to work at the Starbucks or something too and
Gig
work
employment.
3, 4. Yeah, yeah.
Gig
They're like, oh,
employment.
yeah, you
You have
can't make
you have
them.
more options now. Yeah. If you're a young folk or even not even a young folk and
Yeah.
you don't feel like that you're being treated well, but you still got to pay your car name, house, stuff, and so on. You can drive Uber. It's called gig
Hmm.
employment, what it's
Yep.
called. And you can pick up jobs anywhere, retail, Uber,
Yep.
Amazon, pick somewhere, and you can couple enough jobs together to still get the level of income you need to support your family. And
Hmm.
people have more options now. Well, back in the day, you either had to go to that building or that plant, or you weren't working. So
Yeah.
that's why
But
there's
that
such a need for talent, a need for these environments to be more inclusive. Go ahead, Mr. I'm sorry.
that really is a good thing from my perspective. Just growing up in Gary, right, Indiana, you have, a couple of businesses that you can work for. Like you said,
Yeah,
your dad was at the mill, you know, and when the economic opportunity is not present in the community, then the people are living, below standard. So
sure.
if I
Very
can
much.
do Uber, that means that I'm working in my community, I am living in my community, I'm spending my money going out to eat, buying groceries in my community, and that can change the footprint of a city or a zip code,
Very true.
to have like
Very true.
multiple options. So it's much bigger than, people just don't want to suck up to the boss no more or
That's
whatever.
true.
Like young people, they didn't give me a second 15-minute break. It's, like
Right.
people need to feel good about what they contribute in a work environment.
Yeah.
And I know that as employers, it's very difficult to make sure that everybody feels included, that everybody feels seen in the space, right? You can't do that with policies and procedures, right? We can try, or maybe you can at Lexicon. Maybe you got the blueprint for it.
Right.
But yeah, like I think it's a great thing that and I won't say young people, I'll say we have more options to do consulting work or being laid
Exactly.
off and starting another organization and taking all of the knowledge that we collected throughout the years. And like I think it's a great thing, and I think it will ultimately change like our community and our state, for the better.
I
Hmm.
agree with you.
Yeah. Esther, that brings me to a point too. Based off your experience of working with young males in the community, I want to know two things. Number one, why did you select the ages of 16 to 24 primarily? And what's something that you think many people misunderstand about what this demographic needs?
So I didn't want to go down this route when Britt was talking about belonging. So we have, like, in our theory of change, like, three principles. We think that if young men are connected to mentoring or mentors, so like men that have already gone through this and, gone down this path, and they can train them to do things the right way, like not mess up how I messed up when I was 22. Um, but so, like, when young men are connected to mentors, when the organizations, so that means employers, that means schools, that means whatever organizations are interacting with these young men, when they are prepped and prepared to engage them and connect with them, we believe that young men will be connected to that particular employer, that particular school building, that particular, whatever the case may be. Like, the idea is that this organization is implementing evidence-based interventions. They are measuring the outcomes, so on and so forth. And we're pairing that young man with a mentor, and then they are connected. So, like, that's the goal, to have young men better connected to these positive spaces, right?
Mhm.
Though the challenge when we talk about belonging, right, is that young men don't feel welcomed in spaces like the classroom. We look at things like the school to prison pipeline. In Indiana, 27% of Black and mixed youth. Indiana Youth Survey, Indiana Youth Institute put out their data book and highlighted that that group is suspended at a much higher rate than their counterparts, right?
Mhm.
So when you walk into a school building and as a parent, like, my son is almost 30% for sure he's going to get suspended at this school, because that's what the numbers say for that particular school. Um, I don't know where I was going with that. Remind me of what you said. Remind me belonging. That's what I was
Yeah.
going to. Belonging,
Yeah.
belonging, belonging. And so this population in particular, right? They are getting towards this age where they want independence, they want their own money and different things like that. And then in Marion County and in Lake County, one in three babies born in 2022 were born to both parents under the age of 19, right? And
Wow.
then in Marion County, it was like 678 babies born in 22. So 678 out of every 1,000 babies born was born to a mother age 19 to 15. So
Okay.
Mm.
this group of young men, as it relates to Indiana, are the fathers, right? These are the fathers that, there are students, there are employees, they are the fathers, right, of this new generation. And so my thought process was, number one, going before them to make those connections, with the organizations, with the mentors. So going before them as a mother. I got like a tagline that says, I don't mentor, I mother. And so going before them to make those connections, right? To stop them, not necessarily stop them, but prevent them from being fathers, right? At the age of
Mhm.
19, 20, or 21. But then those that are fathers, supporting them with a mentor, supporting them with, going before them with the employer and building those relationships to open doors for them, supporting them so that their child isn't in the same situation that they have been in, or maybe like, other people, their peers may have been in. Um, so yeah, this is a population that is, in my perspective, ignored, especially when it comes to mentoring. I am grasping at straws for men to mentor this age group. So many times people will say, why don't you do middle school, elementary school? Like, what are you preventing? Because our focus is prevention. So what are you preventing at this age? It's too late. They're too old. But it's like, one individual young man, it may be too late for them. But when you think about the impact that you're making on a population basis, right? If we can get a hold to this young man, then he can stay in his child's life. And then his child is, reading by the time they get to kindergarten, actually going to, and so yeah, that's why we look at 16 to 24. We want to make, some community changing impact, and we want
Mhm.
that to be cross generational. So I believe that Black men, specifically Black men in this age range, has the power to do that, to impact some really global or population based change. And I'm not
Okay.
just saying that because my favorite person is my son. I just love Black men, and I think that they can be the catalyst for change as long as they are resourced and the world around them are resourced to serve them.
Mm.
Those wraparound services, you're right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now that brings me to a question for you, Britt. Uh, what about this inclusion? Um, One, I'm thinking, do businesses fully grasp this need for inclusion? And the B part of that is, how can inclusion improve innovation for companies?
Let's start with the first question. Some organizations have really, really grabbed a hold of it and have used this as a performance lever. When I mean performance lever, they figured out if we can be more inclusive, our employees will show up to work, be more engaged, and perform higher, which means they will make more money. Let's just keep it 100. So some
Mhm.
companies have figured that out. Well, other companies have been placed a value on it because they like the environment the way it is. The environment's not diverse. They like that. They like the environment where they can control it a little bit more, and they don't care for that. So those organizations, if you look at McKinsey does longer reporting, and they'll tell you 35% of organizations who embrace companies who embrace inclusion and belonging have seen a 35% increase in their profits. But it's a lot of work. So some companies don't want to do the work to change the environment. You just can't say we're changing it. We're going to be inclusive. Starting on Monday, everybody, we're going to be inclusive. You've got to change people's behaviors. These are behavior changes.
Mm.
Inclusion lives and dies with who you report to. It's not HR,
Mm.
it's who you report to. Your manager has to create an environment where you feel like you belong. Your manager has created an environment and treat you that you feel like you're included. You can't put it up on board and put it on the website. You have to experience inclusion. And that means that people have to change their behavior, how they treat people. So that's what's happened. Some companies are like, it's going to take too much, going to be too, just to keep doing what we're doing. Or they just don't put forth the effort. So it doesn't get there. And you can look at the data, those companies who do outperform others who don't. All right. Now, what was just the second part of your question? Just to make sure I didn't miss it. Once again, was
Say that last part again.
it just, I want to make sure I answer your second part of your question.
Yeah, I was just saying, how does inclusion improve innovation with
Yeah. The first improves innovation is when people feel that they're included, then they're going to be willing to give their ideas. So let me just give you a little bit more easier explanation.
okay.
Psychological safety in the workplace is key. When employees feel they can raise their hand, they can give ideas or give and have suggestions, and they're not going to get penalized for it, or someone will say, "Oh, that's a crazy idea. Why'd you say that?" Or, "Hey, we don't need you as a part of this group." When people feel psychologically safe, then they're going to be more innovative because the environment is safe for you to suggest things, try things, make mistakes, and don't have to worry about losing your job. There
Mhm.
is a different level of risk. When employees feel that if I try this, it's going to be risk I'm going to lose my job, then they're not going to do it.
Right.
But if you can make a mistake and it's not, then what that does is it creates an environment of innovation. When you look at all these high tech companies, Microsoft, Google, and so on, look at the population of people. I say every time, how many more phones do they come up with? What the phone? I got 17. These great ideas. folks who are diverse and innovative. These are groups of people coming in with these groups, with these ideas. So being able to create that environment breeds innovation, hands down.
Mhm. Yeah, I can absolutely see the value in having that. It just seems like it's a lot of heavy lifting to get an organization to see change because a lot of times people resist change. I mean,
Yeah. The
just
easiest thing to do, the easiest thing to do is to learn something new. The hardest thing to do is to unlearn bad
right.
behavior.
Yes.
Think about it. It's hard to what? Stop smoking. It's
Hmm.
hard to what? Give up drugs. It's hard to stop drinking alcohol. You have to unlearn bad behavior before you can learn new behavior. And the unlearning is what's difficult. So people give up.
Hmm.
And on top of that, that takes time. If you're going to change your cultural environment and we're going to start treating people differently, it's going to take more than a week. It's going to take more
Oh
than
yeah.
2 weeks, more than 6 months. And that's what happens. People start these initiatives and then they give out. So during the heyday of DEI back in 2020, there's a 114% increase in those roles. I benefit from it, benefit others. You saw companies putting forth these efforts. The first thing you saw was, let's hire a DEI leader. Think about it.
Hmm.
Every company major had something like 114% increase. And they thought, we got one. Well, what they learned was you still have to change people's behavior. That means, manager, you can no longer come in here and start screaming at people. You're going to have to
Yeah.
change how you talk to people, how you treat people, each and every person. That takes a long time for everybody to start acting that way. And then that changes the culture. Not because me, you, and Esther start treating people different. Well, it's going to take more than 3 people. And that's what
Yeah.
happens. It's an effort.
It is. Yeah. I remember when I worked at this hospital in Indianapolis, we supposedly had a diverse team, and they came out with the flyers, and they had printed them up before they even talked to us. And it just had a family of just one color on it. And one
Exactly.
guy, he was a real smart guy. I really liked him too. He raised his hand. He said, "You know what?" He said, "I don't think this pamphlet really reflects our population we serve." He said,
Yes.
"Maybe we
Yes.
could have a mixture in there." And the manager said, "We already printed up these flyers, and if we really wanted your input in it, we would ask you before. But thank you for saying that." So
Exactly.
That was
Pay
a
the
nice way.
respect.
yeah, she was nice about it, but it just makes me wonder, like you had mentioned earlier, that people they don't really leave companies, they leave the bad management. So
That's right.
how do
Hmm.
you how do you inculcate this into your management team? Do you tell them, hey, what's the hiring process like to get the people needed, or we teach the old dogs new tricks?
Well, here's a key piece. So I think what you're asking is how do you hold managers accountable for this? So I've only seen it work one way, and I'll give you the formula. One, it has to start at the top with the CEO and the executive team saying that we will no longer accept this behavior. That's the very first thing. It has to come from the top. It can't come just from your manager. It's got to come from the top of the organization. The second thing is you then have to teach managers how to be inclusive. Don't assume that they know how to do
Mm.
it. They don't. They don't. You have to teach them that, and then you have to train them. Here is how you talk to folks. I was talking to a client last week, and the person was telling me they've got some issues with one or two managers who don't know how to talk to people,
Wow.
especially people of color. So you got to train your leaders, put together leadership behaviors. Here is the behavior that we're expecting, and then here is the two key pieces. Put it on your performance evaluation, and you
Mm,
evaluate them on their performance. And the last and final piece is you hold them accountable. And if they don't meet those objectives, then they're not going to get a bonus or pay increase. Once you tie it to their pay and their
mhm.
bonus, then people will take you serious and they will start to change their behavior. Without that, it's just a nice to have. Okay, great. Y'all say we can hold us accountable, but we're not measuring it. Nothing's going to happen if I don't do it. Make it a part of their performance evaluation and say, you will not receive your increase or your bonus unless you get a certain threshold. It's the only time I've seen people take it. Once you say that, people start, okay, what do we have to do now? Until then, it's like, yeah,
Britt,
yeah. Go ahead.
Britt, when
Mhm.
you're working with new clients, how often are you seeing companies that take it that seriously? That and you're saying just put it apart, make it a part of their performance evaluation, but I believe it should be like ongoing training requirements for
True.
managers to be
Yeah.
trained in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and in implementing that in a fair and equal way. But how many companies, number one, that have the resources available to do that? And I'm not just saying money. Resources is people that are trained
Right.
and that can also train other people. But how many companies do you see that you work with, that actually implements it at the level that you're suggesting?
Not many as there used to be. In the height of DI, you had a DI team. You had trainers who were responsible for increasing cultural competence.
Mm-hmm.
Training, when new administration came in, the first thing, as we all know, that got cut was DEI, which means, okay, now federal regulations are in place. We can no longer have these programs. I mean, we no longer need the resource.
Mm,
Suppliers who are doing business with these companies said, well, we don't need it because they don't need it. So they don't have the resources anymore. So what I see today is companies still want to have an inclusive work environment where people feel like they belong or engage, but they don't have the resources. So they come to companies like mine to train
mm,
their leaders. But it's an
Mm.
interesting place. And I call this place the hallway. The hallway is you're stuck between what diversity used to be and whatever it's going to be.
Going to be right.
So
Whatever that
therefore,
definition looks like in the future.
because
Yeah.
it's not going to be DEI, not currently. So what is it going to be?
Right.
And in that hallway are people and things that still want to be included, belonged, and they want the training. So what some organizations have done is just say, you know what, we're not going to have trainers anymore. We're going to go out and hire these other companies like Lexicon to help train our people, which is why my focus is on people, culture, and results. That is the three things that I focus on. So companies are not paying outside companies, but what they're doing, Esther, is they're telling you, well, we don't want to call it
mm,
Diversity,
inclusion
equity, and
and
inclusion.
development.
Yeah.
That's like the first thing
Hmm.
they say. We're going to call it engagement. We're going to call it a workplace culture. Anything but that name, but that is what they want to have happen.
Right.
So those companies who are really serious about it have figured out those other companies have just said, you know what, we just can't afford it, or wow, we're gonna lose business if we do this way, and they just abandon it, and that's what's difficult right now in the workplace.
mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's interesting. I, another company I had worked at, they were doing this DEI. I don't know what they called it. It might have been that, but one thing that kind of shocked me was we had dialogues with the whole group, and the things that came out of people's mouths led us to stop doing that. One
Mhm.
lady asked, they said just it was a safe space, and they said, what are some things you want to know? And a white lady had asked, she said, can black people swim? And
It's a
everybody
fake
kind of,
news.
yeah, yeah, they was kind of
It's a fake news.
the room was divided from that moment on. And then
Hmm.
one person we found out worshiped eggs, and that's something
Mhm.
that they wanted to do. So we started saying, hey, who am I working with here? And
Yeah,
they stopped all that because they said this is going to be deeper. We might have to just assign each person a psychologist. So I don't know how to, under those circumstances, how does a company make sure all voices are heard? How is
yeah.
that possible with those
That is a wonderful
parameters?
question, and a question that used to come up quite often before diversity really took off. And here's the key piece: each organization has to define it based on what they're looking for. So
Hmm.
the definition for Microsoft may not be the same for another company, or for Eli Lilly or Apple. So once you define, here is what diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging means for us in this organization, This is what we're going to stand for. This is the things we're going to do. I remember I worked for an organization when I was a DEI leader, and Pride Month came around. And people were saying, "Hey, Britt, what are we going to do for Pride Month?" I said, "Well, I'm new to the company. I wasn't here this time last year. I went and talked to my leader, said we don't celebrate those things." I said, "But we have a DEI culture. We draw the line there."
Mm.
I work for another company, George Floyd. The CEO said, "We're not getting involved in anything political or social justice." So when you go through your diversity assessment and you're defining what it means for you, you have to have these conversations. One of the conversation is, okay, we're going to stand for social justice. Are we going to do something? I remember this company, I was really pushing that we have to say something. So when George Floyd happened and was murdered, the CEO said, "Okay, Britt, work with the marketing team, have them write something up. Show it to me and I'll let you know if I like." He didn't write it, marketing. But it didn't say what. Only thing it said is we stand for people being treated fairly. Okay, that ain't nothing about that man being murdered. So companies are playing it safe. Now, you ask why they play it safe. They got shareholders who don't look like us. They got people that buy their products don't look like us. So they're playing to this audience, and the board doesn't look like us. So they play to this audience. It's safer to stay away from social justice for some companies. It's safer not to state your opinion and draw a line in the sand of what you're going to stand for. So they play it safe because they don't want to lose money. Look at Target. Target's CEO came out and talked about get rid of diversity. It's not this and that. Sales went down, and eventually the board got rid of them. And I know people today who said, "I'll never go in Target."
So I think that I think that the requirement to take a position on any issue, whether that's Pride, whether that's George Floyd's murder, I think not all organizations, if we are looking at them truly as an organization, I don't think that you have to necessarily take a side, right? Because you look at places like Chick-fil-A, this the Jesus chicken, right? And they made some very big statements in where they put their money, when it came to, folks running for office or whatever the case may be. But their perspective or their company brand it represents Jesus, it represents Christ. And like this is the side that we're standing on. And so I think that sometimes organizations or companies, their identity is rooted in low cost goods, let's say, or their identity is rooted in, quality clothing, that they don't necessarily have to take a side as it relates to, George Floyd, or as it relates to Pride, or as it relates to, other diversity, equity, and inclusion things.
The other piece too, this great discussion is this is what I've always thought. When things happen socially to one particular demographic, in most cases, from my experience, the people who are being impacted by what's happened are not the people who are in charge.
That's true.
So when you think about George Floyd and you look at the percentage of CEOs and so on in America, it's not their community. It's not their community. So they're not being impacted personally by this because it's not happening to them or somebody close to them or in their family. So it's their viewpoint and perspective is different from that. I was working at a company when George Floyd happened. And I remember I was working with someone who was a white woman, very good person to work with, younger than me, a lot younger than me. And she was saying, "I just can't believe this has happened." And she was saying, "Aren't you upset about it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm very upset about it, but it's not the first time." And
Right.
she was saying, "What are you talking about?" So I said, "When I get back to my office, I'm going to send you something. And once you see it, I want you to give me your opinion." Went back, went to YouTube, found the video of Rodney King in 1991, I believe it was,
Mm,
90,
mm.
90, and I sent it to her. Okay. I'm on my way to lunch. So I'm going to stop by her queue and see if she saw it. I go to her queue. She's in there with her headphones on, looking at the video.
Mm-mm.
So I tapped her on the shoulder and she turned around and she was all tears.
Mm.
Mm,
All
yeah.
And she said, "This happened that long ago and nothing is done and still happening now." And she was just furious. Said, "Yeah, it's a long look at the gap."
Yeah.
And nothing happened to those police officers. They got tired of beating him and okay, your turn now. And she
Right.
couldn't believe because what she was trying to tell me was, "Oh, this one was videotaped." That's not the first one videotaped. Not the first one.
Right.
You one that was videotaped way back in the day, really kind of got it started to a certain degree. I said, but if you go back to the 60s, you'll see how we were treated. German
Mm-hmm.
shepherds, water hose, and so on. But what she shared with me, because she came to my office and she said, "I just want to talk about it." I said, "I didn't know that. Nobody in my family told me about that. Nobody was
Wow.
impacted. I knew with
Yeah.
the high school, elementary school. So if you're not impacted and you don't know someone who is being impacted, easy to say, no more DI stuff. No, we're not going. We're not going to talk about that because it's
Mm.
not personal to you. It's not personal to somebody you know or been impacted with. So it's easy to discuss it when those things happen.
Mm.
It's easy to, for me, it's easy to have a conversation with like a person and they see like the passion that I have for males of color, you know, and they get on board when it comes to males of color. But when you think about a whole organization, a whole system that their primary focus is whatever, you know,
Mhm.
their primary focus is, you know, getting a train on a train track. That's their primary focus. You got thousands of people coming together to get the train on the train track. You know, it's difficult to shift that large of a piece on this this puzzle we call the world, you know? Like I think it is important for us to continue to share those stories of impact, you know, letting someone see, you know, Rodney King, letting someone see, you know, George Floyd and them experience those things. But I think changing the culture or pushing really an organization towards DEI, it's a much larger feat. Not saying that we
Sure.
can't do it, but
Yeah.
it's a very big push.
Yeah.
Diversity practitioners who've been doing it for some time, there was kind of a saying among us. Diversity is a journey. It is.
Mm,
It's not a start. You may have a starting point, but there is not an ending point
mm,
because it's a journey and it's also not a program. It's an initiative. It's culture change.
Hmm.
Programs have a start and or project and program has a start and end date. Well, diversity is a journey. You're going to go through all the different things that have happened. I used to tell my leader when my last VP of DEIB, I told her, I said, this will be the most personal thing that we will ever do.
mm,
Think about it. It's not talent acquisition. It's not hiring. It's not benefits. When you start talking about DEI, it's personal to you because what you're
mhm,
saying is you don't see me, you don't hear me, you don't understand me, you don't value me, and you don't respect me. That's personal.
mhm,
I always try to juxtapose a situation and see it from somebody else's perspective. Let's just
mm,
say somebody who doesn't understand DEI and, like you said, don't affect them, but they want to start a business. Purpose of the business is to make money.
Yeah,
Why would I really want to have to deal with all this extra stuff? I mean, I just want to make money and, you know,
that's no point.
do my
I think the data will show you from McKinsey and Deloitte and others who measure this, and they put out reports on a regular basis. You'll see that those businesses who really focus and committed to it, they do see change in their revenue, and it's increasing. Now, organizations who want to start it don't know where to start. The very first thing to do is to start with an engagement survey or a belonging survey to understand how your employees feel about it. That data will then let you know where you are and also where to start. You will also learn as you go through this journey, you start looking at your data. Why are people leaving? Well, unless you're asking them, then you don't know. Unless you start to do surveys or focus groups, or maybe back in the day, you used to do listening sessions. So in other words, start with the assessment is what I'm saying. Start by the assessment and let the data tell you where you need to go. And you'll see pretty quickly that this is important, folks.
You know, that's a very good response. I'm glad you said that. It reminds me of Amazon when some things was going down and they wanted, I don't know what they were going to do. I guess people was boycotting some. I don't really remember all the dynamics of it. But I remember Amazon was like, hey, if you don't want to buy a product, you don't have to because we have a variety of customers. So you only, and they stood 10 toes. I was impressed that they did it. So I can see that. So if a company wants to be successful, it seems like it would behoove them to understand the market they're marketing to,
That's correct.
as
That's
well as
correct.
the people who are representing them. And
That's
so I
right.
guess it's like, how do you not see this? I guess I don't know. Maybe it's
Very,
so
very true.
maybe
Yeah.
it's affected me. Let me ask you this, but I probably know the answer. But have you ever been discriminated against while you were working? And if so, how did
Oh,
you
God.
navigate that?
Well, I'll tell you, my first opportunity, I would say, to be a manager, it was my manager got promoted to to a director. And she said, the manager position is open. I remember her making in the staff meeting said the manager position is open. I want to hire someone from our team. I'm not going to post a job externally. Anybody who is interested, please send me your resume, fill out the internal application, so on and so forth. And I was the only person of color on the team, the only Black person on the team. And I also knew that I didn't have as much a tenure as one person who I thought should have got the job. So she said, Britt, you're going to apply for this. I said, no, you've been here longer. You should get this job. You're the one I think would be great for this one. She said, no, you apply for it. So she encouraged me to apply. I applied. There was a list of interviews that were happening that day. I can still remember like it was yesterday because I was the last person to be interviewed at 4 o'clock that day.
Mm,
And on my lunch hour, I went to my car, went to the bathroom and changed into a suit.
okay.
Had my portfolio, came in as if I was an external candidate for the interview. And my teammates was like, but I said, I'm here for my interview at 4 o'clock. Like, man, this really look nice. I go into the interview with my leader, and she said, I handed her my resume. I know she had it, but I handed her my resume. Went and got the Kinkos back, and they got it on the nice paper and everything.
Right.
That resume paper.
That resume, yeah. And I remember sitting next to her desk. She pulled up in front of me. I said, in front of me. She said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I really want to talk with you about you applying for this position." I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm ready to interview. I'm excited about this opportunity." And she took my resume and she put it to the side. And she said, I'm just going to be honest with you. I just don't think this is a role for you.
Mm,
And we're looking for somebody else. And I said, what do you mean somebody else? You said you was really going to interview people in person. Yeah, that's just, I think the role you're in. He said, but I've got great scores in my performance evaluation, so on and so forth. One of the positives. And he said, I just don't think this is the right role for you. So we're not going to even go through. I said, so you're not going to interview me? Like, you don't want to get your hopes up and just waste your time and mine. Okay.
dang.
So And this is 4 o'clock. So now I come out of the office, it's like 4:15, 4:20, 4:30.
That was
And people are
quick.
like, you done? To your point, you done? Yeah, it didn't last that long. I walked back to my manager's office and I said, I think I'm gonna leave early. Yes, I completely understand. Got my stuff and went home. On the way home, called my father. My father talked to me about, what could have happened in
Mhm.
terms of, I was saying, I didn't really think they really, gave me a shot. So I told my father, I'm going to start applying for jobs in the Chicago region for other positions. I applied for a position, I get an interview out in Wooddale, Illinois. I task of Wooddale. And I interviewed with the person there. And she said to me, I've got a question for you. I said, what is it? She said, I talked to your manager and she said that I should not consider you for this job.
Dang.
What?
That stuff is following you.
And
Right.
I want to know what happened. And I'm like, I was not expecting it. So I said, here's what happened. I really didn't interview for the position there. Because she said, I saw the position up in Indianapolis. Why wouldn't you do that? I said, I tried. I didn't interview. And she said, I asked your manager the same thing. And here's what she told me. You're not the kind of person that we need in the role. And she said, well, what does that mean? Well, most of our folks here don't look like him. Most of the people here, our customers don't
Mm.
look like him. And I just don't think it'd be a right role. And the person in Chicago said, it's because he's black. Well, I'm not going to say that. I said, well, what is it? So she's telling me this as I'm sitting there. This is right after the interview. We're through all the questions, and I'm stunned. I'm just looking at her. She's looking at me. I'm looking at her like, okay, where's this going? And she said, I want to let you know you fit in just fine right here.
Dang.
Mm.
It offered me the job on the spot.
Mm.
And I moved down from that man.
Mm.
And we had a long conversation. Her name is Kathy Koff. I still remember.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
I was like, wow, I had to get myself together to go out of the
Yeah.
office.
And emotions.
But it was emotional, man, because I already knew what I experienced and felt. My father had tried to talk to me, try to help me. Don't let these barriers, this is what happened. He's older than us. He's been through a lot more than we have. But when she said it, it was like, oh my God. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
don't you worry about it. And that was key for me because I worked for her. And
Mhm.
then she helped me get into my very first manager job.
In the
Wow.
spirit of belonging.
And the
Right.
spirit of belonging,
When you
she
went to the new job, you
I worked
belonged. Yeah.
out in I used to, and here's the funny thing. So I moved back to East Chicago with my dad, and I used to
Hmm.
drive 52 miles one way to the off of out to the out to that to work there because I wanted
Mm.
that job that bad. I said, Dad, I'm gonna live here with you, save some money. I drove about 3 tolls, 52 miles one way. But she believed in me. She thought I could do it. She helped
Mhm.
me. She coached me. She tutored me. And she helped me get my first job as a manager. And that experience I will never forget, ever.
Mm.
It sounds like you're the reason they put the B on DEIB. That's a history moment. Look at
Mm.
there. Let me ask you this.
It-
Let me ask you this, Britt. How did that shape your leadership style now? Because from the first moment I met you, I knew you were even, calm spirit, which makes me think if a person is calm, they've been through some stuff. I know that. So how does that affect your leadership now and in the role you're doing in helping companies? How does that come out?
I can see things from the employee's perspective. I see things from the person across the room from me or across the table that doesn't look like me
Hmm.
perspective. I try to build relationships. So what it's allowed me to be able to do is help others because I can
Mm.
relate to them at a different level because I've humbled myself. I've allowed myself, when I say allow, we all have to allow ourselves to do things. I've
Hmm.
told myself, I got to find out what's happened. So now my leadership style is more inclusive. I now know if I've got an only woman or Hispanic or somebody on the team,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about we making that person feel like they belong. Others may
Man.
not be thinking that. But I'm thinking when I'm interviewing and hiring somebody, well, if we bring this person along, they will help us have a more diverse perspective. So I immediately show value to them because I know their journey is probably going to be different from those who don't look like that. And I've just continued to use that in my career. And when I decided on January 29th to leave my head of HR job, I knew it had to be about people, culture, and results. And I said, I can be more effective and impact more people if I do this as a consultant versus just doing it for one company.
Mhm.
And that
Mm,
was part of what I want to do is leverage this experience to help others. And here's the other thing that helped me too. When you have your own business, you can do what you want to do.
Oh
When you
yeah.
don't have your own business, okay, hey, you stop over there, don't do that. Hey, leave that alone. Hey, we can't do that because this is gonna happen. I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Mhm.
You
mm,
can have this conversation with you and don't have to worry about what my boss gonna say. I'm gonna be on this
Yeah.
podcast with Ward and Ester. Can I say that? I don't worry about that. You don't have to worry
yeah,
about that.
yeah,
So that was a part of it. You refuse to be small because you think small.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I think
causes anxiety and depression is sometimes we shrink ourselves to
we
fit
do.
in,
man.
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
tolerate people. And it causes anxiety, depression. I went through all of that. So this was
Mm,
a way for me to leverage experience, help others. When we talk war, I'm like, when you need me, man, let's talk. Because the more I
Yeah.
can leverage my experience, somebody out there's gonna listen to this and say, I'm gonna benefit from what they said. What Esther
Hmm.
said and Britt said, oh, that's gonna me. Then I listen to people and think, wow, it helped me.
Yeah.
Last piece.
yeah.
One of this guy I used to work with, this older gentleman. He used to tell me, he said, Britt, you're always talking about what used to be, man. You got to move forward. I said, yeah, I'm trying to get past that. He said, here's a good advice I'm going to give to you that somebody gave to me.
Mm,
Only a fool trips on what's behind them when they're going forward.
Mhm.
He said, you go home and think about that. Only a fool trips on what's behind them when they're going forward. So what he was saying to me is, if you're moving forward, you can't freaking follow what's behind you. Stop trying to
mm,
go back and fix stuff that's already happened. I was always trying, if I do this, it's not, man. Go forward. Go move forward. And that advice is stuck with me. It took me a
Mhm.
while to understand what he was saying. I was young, read it down, the real problem man. But he said to move forward. But I finally got it. And he said, did you understand what I told you yesterday? I said, I think so. He said, well, here's what I said. I meant if you're moving forward, you don't have time to go back. If you go back, you're going to trip and fall. Just keep moving forward. Take that experience, learn from it, and move forward. You can't go back in time.
That's right.
And
yeah,
that stuck with
yeah.
me. And I try to live my life today the same way.
Yeah. I've never heard of anybody looking in the rear view mirror trying to go forward because the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield. So you gotta keep that
Exactly.
focus. And
Keep
worrying
that
Mm-hmm.
never
focus, man.
changes the path.
That's
Never.
right. Exactly. You can't go back and change it.
I wanted to ask Esther, kind of piggybacking off what Britt said, do you have a success story of any of your young men that you work with who had a sense of belonging and it kind of changed their lives? Anybody?
That's a sense of belonging, success story.
Yeah, just like I know you do such great work with them, and I know getting to the people this age is important because I don't feel your brain's really developed at age 25 anyway. Was there
Mm.
somebody you saw going down that path that you were able to make some connection for them that came out much better?
So that's a difficult question to answer, because so much of our work is done with the organizations that serve in the young men. We don't
Mhm.
typically we do provide direct service, but it's usually in our events or like short-term training.
Okay.
So the majority of our work is spent with the organizations that are engaging the young men. So we have tons of like um intermediary success stories, young men that went to, the army and, was homeless. Another, we got one of the mentoring organizations that we've worked with or partnered with for like the past 5 years. A couple of young men that he's been working with, but one in particular, he was like the oldest of like 6 kids. And so he was homeless. He
Mm.
just in a really bad situation, went to Job Corps, went to the Army, got custody of two of his brothers that are right up under him. And so not only impacting or changing his own life, but changing, the lives of his siblings. And so that's really good. But just a lot of those stories where like we're just the intermediary, like we're paying this mentoring organization to mentor these young men. And we kind of throw these events so we can bring those organizations and all those young men together. But when it comes to like an individual success story, those happen with the organizations that we support, not necessarily with us.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Britt, how about this question?
Mhm.
Is it value in a company hiring someone over 40?
Without a doubt.
I hope so.
I mean, it's a
I'm
protected class.
46.
It's a
And,
pro-
and there's laws against that as well. But of
yeah.
course, one of the things about, I think, diversity that people missed is you bring together a group of individuals who have varied levels of experience, very different life and lived experience. So it's just not about skin color, nationality, or sexual orientation, but it's all these other things that go with it. So bringing someone in that is a older, more experienced, been in the workforce, you're going to learn something from those who have been places and have done things that other folks just haven't. That's just how things are. So I always like to have a team of people that have diversity in those areas because they're going to bring knowledge, skills, and experience that others don't have. You're going to learn from them because they already done it before.
Yeah.
So it's very valuable to have a workforce like that, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Mentoring is it. We need mentors at every stage
Exactly.
of life, every
Yeah.
stage of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like a lot of sports, and one thing I notice is that they always have a veteran on the team. He may not play all the time,
Exactly.
but he
Yes.
keeps that
Yes.
locker room grounded. So I
Yes.
think that's
Yes.
nice. Yeah.
That's right.
That sports metaphor,
Yes.
that's great. That's great. Talk about belonging. I don't belong in that conversation.
I'm not a
I
big fan. I
I
just know
don't
just
know
enough
what you
of it.
mean. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're almost done here, but I want to ask you guys one question in this quick rapid fire round here.
Mm.
I'll go with Britt first. What skill do you think would be most critical for the next generation of human resource leaders to have?
Mm.
I think that skill is listening.
Mm,
We live in a society now where you got so many distractions. You got your phone, you've got all these
Mm-hmm.
distractions. It's a lot of noise. And through that noise, you sometimes miss the lesson that's right in front of you because you're looking at your phone. Someone's called you, or the text message, or your social media things are going off, or
Mm-hmm.
sit and listen and learn, I think
mm,
is the key piece today.
there it is. I like that.
Emotional intelligence as well.
Emotional intelligence. That is
we
Yeah,
need
so
which
true.
we need managers with emotional intelligence.
Yes, 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 yes.
okay, Esther, your question is, you always present yourself in such a positive light every time I talk to you or see your social media posts. I want to know, what advice would you give someone who felt that they had a calling to do such a large
Mm,
undertaking as you did?
It's a
What,
great
what would you
question,
tell
man.
them? How would they get started? What would you say?
You asking me that question like I got the answers.
You did it.
I'm not
You make
gonna
it. You make
listen. I'm not gonna pretend that I have the answers. What I will say is that this is something that I believe God purposed me to do.
Mhm.
So I see a lot of people that start organizations or they want to be an entrepreneur, and it's just something that they think would make them money. Like, oh, like I know how to count really well, and just let me
Mhm.
be an accountant, and I do people's taxes all the time. but it might not necessarily be something that God purposed you or put you on the earth to do, right? So the first thing is identifying what that purpose is that God got for you, and then just kind of pursuing that, right?
Hmm.
He'll provide the resources, he'll provide the provision when to give you the vision. So
There you go.
that's where I be at with
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And it
Okay. I
comes
got
natural to you too, Esther. I can tell you it's something that comes natural to you and you don't have to work at it. That's good. That's a
Yeah,
gift from God right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
yep.
And again, I've been working in youth development for over 20 years. Not necessarily as my primary source of income, but it was just always something that I did as a side job, you know, if it was like part-time, if it was volunteer. And so this is like a just all of this experience kind of rolled up in one. These they call it what do they call it? Like very distinct irritation,
Mm.
where things that irritate somebody else, you know, might not irritate you, but all of these things that I bring to the work of holistic evolution, it's just like things that bothered me in working with other organizations. And like, what can I bring to this space of youth development, or specifically work with young men, that hasn't been done? You know, what is missing from my community and the work that's out there being done?
Hmm.
Um, so all of it is just like stuff that just pissed me off when I was working for somebody else. And I'm
There you go.
like, okay, when I do this, we are not doing it that way.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That reminds me of my daughter when she first started working. Before she became a nurse, she worked at the courthouse. And I
mm,
realized that I thought some of my life experiences was hers because she said, Dad,
Mhm.
why does everybody at the courthouse keep talking about they getting a runaround? What is the runaround? And to me, that was such a common thing. I was like, well,
right.
you don't know what the runaround is? I said,
It's a
keep working.
saying.
Yeah,
Right,
From
right.
experience. That's
she
right.
know what it is now.
Generations.
Trust me.
Not
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to let the audience know that you guys are real people with real problems, just like all of us. I want
Mm.
you guys to tell me, what is your favorite movie? Because mine is Cooley High. I'll never get over that movie. It's just so, I can watch it forever. It's just so great. I just love that movie. What movie would you guys say resonate with you?
you want to go, Esther, or you want me to go?
Listen, I got to think about that.
Yeah. The one that comes immediately to mind, I'm gonna go ahead and go with that one. Denzel Washington movie. He's the football coach. Um,
Yeah, yeah. What is that
the name
called?
escapes me right now,
The
but that
greatest or some, what is that movie?
that movie where he was the coach,
Ty,
um,
is it
Coach
Ty?
Boone.
Tied to
What
something.
is
Yeah,
no?
that one. Yeah.
I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna look it up because it's.
Right. Look it up, Brett. Look it
I'm gonna, I'm
up
gonna,
It was
I'm
because
the,
gonna look
it's
it
something
up.
of the
bothering me.
Titans, right? The Road
It
Oh
Titans.
yeah, remember the Titans. That's what it
Remember the
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Titans. Remember the Titans.
Remember
Remember
the
the Titans.
Titans.
yeah.
Remember the
Yeah.
Titans because it was such a journey that he went on, and he took over the school, and they weren't the best. They didn't have the best facilities. Um, and he saw racism happening to him, and he just continued to pursue. But then he inspired these young men to be more than they ever thought they could be.
Dang,
And that
yeah.
movie is one of those movies that is just like, because you can relate to it, you can see the journey, you're pulling for them. And that movie just really was one of my favorites, is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was a good movie. You're right. All right, Esther, you're up.
Listen, so this was such a difficult question, right? Because I can't think of like my favorite movie, but I'm gonna tell you. So the lady who did the War Room, you know who I'm talking about? Her new movie. It's about her son, and it's about basically the young man is joining like a mentoring group, and this business person is like, do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's, it's the War Room movie.
No, the actress that did it is the same actress.
The War Room. Hmm.
And Abercrombie. You looking at some folks here now. Priscilla Schreier. This is the right movie.
Priscilla Schreier. Yeah, that's
Priscilla
her.
Schreier.
But what
Oh,
movie is it? The
oh,
Forge. The
The
Forge.
Forge.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I've seen it advertised. I haven't seen it.
Can you? Okay, stop right now. Do not press
Write that
go.
down.
Like, you need to go and watch
Yes.
that. You need to go and watch that.
I'm
The
like writing
Forge.
that right now.
Having this perspective, like if you watch The Forge, you will understand why I started holistic evolution. Like
Mm,
this
Okay.
eternal like drive to find like a mentor for my son, and not necessarily finding a space for him to be mentored, or not finding one space for him to be mentored. And yeah, like her son is in this age range of 16 to 24, and he is really trying to find himself. And thank God, um, uh, it was like a businessman gave him a job and told him, for you to keep this job, you're going to have to be mentored by me. And it was like a whole
Wow.
group, they brought
Yeah.
prayer into it. So anyway,
Okay.
makes me cry every time I see it, but
Okay.
I'm loving that movie right now.
I've added it to
awesome.
my list. I've
Yep.
seen
Yep.
it
Okay.
advertised and never saw it's on my list.
I need an update as to what you thought about it. You got 24
Okay.
hours to go and look at
Get
it.
that movie
Well,
done.
Okay.
the time limit
Because
on me.
it's because it's on the streaming services. But it's, if you like Remember the Titans, and I like Remember the Titans, but you'll love this. You'll love The Forge.
Well,
All
there
right.
it is. Okay, Esther, when can people find out more about holistic evolution? What can they support your mission, volunteer or donate, or connect with you online? How can they do that?
Awesome sauce. You can visit our website at www.holisticevolution.org. And we're on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. And you can follow us in those spaces. YouTube. You can follow us in all of those places.
Okay. All right. And you have your YouTube channel up for yours already, you said?
Mhm.
What's it
For
called?
holistic evolution, not
Yes.
I don't mentor our mother.
Yes. Got it. Okay.
It is there. Podcast coming soon.
All right. We look forward to that. All right,
Yeah.
Britt, for organizations, HR professionals, executives. Uh-oh.
This
It's not.
is
Oh, you okay.
You started sharing your
Oh, look at it. We got it up there. Okay, I was gonna ask you right
so
well,
there.
thank you for the QR code. Okay.
Yeah.
this is how you can get a hold of me. That'll take you directly to my website. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. Um, those are the two primary places you'll find me, is LinkedIn and on my website. You scan the QR
Mm.
code, it'll take you right to the website. There's a place there with all my contact information. And let's continue the dialogue. Let's continue this. It's important that we continue it. I want to thank both of you for just having the courage to bring us together, because oftentimes these conversations just never take place, which means we don't advance, we don't evolve, we don't learn, and we don't use these educational opportunities to help out others who do need it. So I just appreciate the opportunity and the platform.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I echo that. Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for
Yeah.
including me in this space today.
Yes. Yes. I thank both you guys for being guests here today. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure to learn all this information and to share it on my platform. Just want to let you guys know that real change begins with real conversation. So until next time, keep lifting others, be seen, be heard, and be remembered. My name is Wardy Ward, and this has been another episode of What's Up With Ward TV. Thank you.
Mm.